Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the A24 project here on the Nerd Party Network. I'm Lee Hutchison, and Dallas King and I make our way through the A24 filmography and along the way bring you interviews with the talent involved. In this episode, I welcome Harry Perdios to discuss his role as Toby in Charlotte Wells' acclaimed debut film, Aftersun, as he shares his experience of shooting the film and his career so far. In Aftersun, Sophie reflects on a shared joy and private melancholy of a holiday she took with her father 20 years earlier to Turkey, where they meet Harry's Toby, also a young teen on holiday who welcomes Sophie into their group. Thanks so much to Harry for joining me in our continuing Aftersun interview series, which has seen us interview Paul Mescal, Frankie Corio, Charlotte Wells, Sally Messham, Kayleigh Coleman, and now Harry. I hope you enjoy this interview, and thanks for listening. So, Harry, what inspired you to pursue a career in acting?
Well, I've kind of always been kind of like a little performer, really. I started off at a really young age. I think I was around 5 or 6 when I started. And I basically started off doing ballet, funnily enough, because my auntie, she owned a dance school in Cyprus. So I started off by going with like my sister and my cousins. And then it kind of gradually went on to musical theatre, and I started doing a lot of that and a lot of stage. And I was kind of adamant from a really young age that this is something that I really wanted to do, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. And it was kind of when I was 13 where it kind of became apparent that's definitely what I want to do, because I was caught up in the Manchester Arena bombing. And I think after that, it really kind of set something off in my brain where it's like, I kind of want to go throughout life doing everything I love and look back with no regrets. And that's where I properly decided that acting was what I wanted to do. So yeah.
How have you kind of taken that inspiration and how have you been turning it into a career?
Just by doing everything I can, really. So whenever I see an audition for a stage production or like a short film on Facebook, like because I know sometimes they do adverts and things like that, then I'm straight on it and I'm straight with my application in. And I think I started with an agent after COVID, because COVID was really tough because everyone was kind of at home doing nothing, and I felt so useless in a way, because I wasn't doing what I love doing. So after COVID, I was like, right, I'm going to start off with an agent. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to make a career for myself. And then that's funnily how I got my audition for Aftersun. Yeah.
Amazing. And have you kind of noticed that sort of change in sort of like audition processes and sort of the industry sort of post-COVID? Has it been a change for the better or perhaps the worse?
I think it's a mix of both. It's really weird because before COVID, it was all in person. And there's always that constant pressure when you sat in a room with like other people and you look at everyone you're like up against. But I quite like the whole idea of like a Zoom call, because it's just like kind of a one-to-one and you don't have that added pressure. But when it comes to self-tapes, I can't think of anything worse in my opinion. It's awful when you're like stood in your room just staring at a camera. And then I'm very much like a nitpicker. So like I'll make like minor little mistake and I'll be straight on it. And I'm like, no, doing it again. And then 10 hours later, I'm there with the same 2 minute audition. So I think that's the only downside. But I think it depends. It depends what kind of audition it is. Yeah. So
Yeah. And what kind of art, like film and performers have sort of inspired you in your early career?
so funnily enough, when I was, I want to say about 8 years old, I watched Billy Elliot, because I was very much into my ballet and things like that. I can't dance for anything now. If someone asked me to dance, I'd probably do a side step and that's about it. But my mum was like, sit down and watch this, it might inspire you. So I sat and watched it. And I think just watching this kid from humble backgrounds who just wanted to dance, and he was a boy, and everyone used to bully him and used to talk bad about him and all this. And I think after watching that and seeing how 10 years later he went on to go be on like the West End and do really well for himself, it really kind of inspired me to go on and just follow my dreams and don't listen to what anyone says. As long as it makes me happy, that's kind of what I'm going to do.
You obviously recently starred in Aftersun. How did that kind of role come around, and what were they looking for at that early stage?
So I originally did like a seminar kind of meeting with, I think there was like 50 people on this Zoom call during COVID. And it was set up with Lucy Pardy, the casting director. And my agent rang me one day and she was like, you should join it. It could be like helpful. Because she was giving advice on auditions and casting and things like that. So I kind of joined on a whim, not really expecting too much, just kind of wanted a bit of advice. And there was a part of the seminar where she was like, does anyone have any questions? And I don't know why. The only thing I could think of like saying was, what's a film that's changed your life? And I can't remember what she said, but it must have stuck with her because around 3 months later, I got a call off my agent saying, "Oh, Lucy Pardy got in contact and she really wants you to audition for this film called Aftersun." So I kind of went forward with it, not really knowing what it was about. Um, but my character details, what they wanted really was a gay teenager who was comfortable in kissing another male. Um, so I kind of thought I'm gay, so I've been out for a couple of years. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of all right with that. I'm happy to go ahead and do that. And I really wanted to help people who are unsure about who they are and things like that. Like to show them really that it's okay and it's normal and kind of normalize it in a way. So I went and did this self-tape and I did it and I genuinely look back on it and I think that's probably the worst audition I've ever done in my life. Yeah, they must have seen something. And from that, I had a couple more Zoom calls and I think I had to send in another self-tape as well. And I think after a couple of times of going back and forward with Lucy and doing these Zoom calls where she'd ask me questions about my life, like what do you do with your friends and what do you enjoy doing in your free time and things like that. I got a call one day on like a random Monday and I was told that I need to be in Manchester Airport on Thursday and I'm going to Turkey. So it honestly was such an insane and fast-paced kind of experience.
Is it almost scary to think back, like, oh, if I didn't turn up at that Zoom call, if I watched something on Netflix instead that evening, or had gone out with some friends instead, that might not have happened? Is it kind of a scary thought to have?
Yeah, definitely. And I originally wasn't going to do the audition because I was doing my A levels at the time. I was like first year of sixth form. So I was like, I'm tired with exams. Like I've got so much pressure on. And my mum was like, my mum's always my little router. She's always kind of like my manager in a way. So she was like, nope, you're doing this audition. I don't care. It could lead to something really big. You've got to do it. You've got to go forward with it. So I remember doing a couple of takes and my mum was reading in for me. And I was like, Mum, I really don't look good right now. This isn't my best acting. Can we not? And she's like, no, do it and we'll send it off. It's the least you can do. So I sent it off and I'm so grateful my mum was pushing me to do that. Because if I didn't, then I wouldn't have got it, obviously.
So what was it like sort of having that kind of quick turnaround to like be flying off to Turkey? Did you feel sort of like you were in one of these weird like reality TV shows or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, After Sun was my first film. So it was really weird because on the Friday, I was just going to sixth form, like my normal day, sitting in my like A-level English class, like really normal. Um, and by that point, I think my agent kind of mentioned that I was in the running for it. But I didn't really know what that meant because I've never really done any film or anything like that. And when I have, it's just kind of musicals, and that I find that a lot more straightforward. Um, so when I found out that I was in the running, I was like, there's no way, there's no way. And then I got the call on the Monday saying, you've got it. And you're flying on the Thursday. So I just remember ringing my school up and being like, hi, I'm gonna miss like a couple of weeks. I hope that's all right. And they were like, yeah, it's fine, go for it, go for it. They were like, as long as you do your exams on your back, that's absolutely fine. Just go for it. So like being over there was weird because I had to do my schoolwork as well as like filming. So yeah, it was a weird balance.
That must have been so surreal to just like you were working with like movie stars all day. You're on the set of this film, and then yeah, better catch up on maths. I can't imagine how bizarre that must have been. Was it really hard to stay on top of things?
I mean, to be fair, I balanced it quite well. I think because I had so much pressure with my exams coming up and things like that, I was kind of like, this is a great experience. I love everything I'm doing, but I also need to focus on that because I know when I get back, I'll regret like not doing any revision and being so far behind. But I think I balanced it really well by just doing like an hour every day of just what I've missed in lessons. Um, but then I'd always make sure to like separate the two so it doesn't kind of combine into one big thing. But yeah, I think I balanced it quite well.
When did you get the chance to sort of see the full script for the first time? Was it when you were sort of heading to Turkey and got the role, or did you get it all kind of up front when you were sort of auditioning?
So I got the script on the day that I found out that I got the job. I got the script and I remember reading it and thinking, this is insane. I don't know what to expect, but from reading it, I just felt so immersed into like kind of the storyline. Um, but I definitely think that from reading it the first time and seeing it now is two very different things, but in like such a positive way. Because I don't think I could have ever kind of imagined how brilliant the film could have been. Um, like that, I think in the script there was still kind of that aspect of the kind of that summer family holiday kind of aesthetic. But then seeing it come to life is beyond anything I could have imagined. And I'm so grateful that I could be a part of it, really.
Toby was like part of a group of very relatable characters to sort of anyone who went on that kind of 90s package holidays. What was it like to take on the role of Toby?
I mean, Toby, I feel like in a way is a part of me. Because obviously I grew up going on these like really big family holidays, to like Cyprus. I'd go to Cyprus a lot of the time because my dad's Cypriot. So I'd go to Cyprus and I think Toby was definitely kind of a lot of memories for me growing up and kind of I remember in the script it mentioned a lot about the Macarena and things like that. Um, so I think Toby was kind of when I went on to go play Toby, I went in with the memories of finding them friends on holiday and kind of being at my happiest in a way abroad.
Yeah, that when I was watching it, I was discussing with someone the other day where it was like, it's weird for me as someone that's like 35 that watches Aftersun and goes, oh, that's a period piece of my life in the 90s. Like when you were saying the Macarena there, I remembered watching that scene and being like, oh, yeah, I remembered being really embarrassed and feeling like I was too old at that young age for something like that. And that whole experience and it being like, oh, they really did capture the 90s. I'm officially old.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm 2004, so I just missed the 90s, but I think the 2000s and 90s were quite similar. Um, so looking back on like kind of After Sun and drinking them mocktails even that weren't very actually that nice, but because you weren't 18 yet, you thought you were like the coolest person in the world. So I definitely wanted to capture that within the character. As well as this guy who kind of goes abroad and is like meets all these new people and wants to like the cool guy, even though his mum's making him do the Macarena on stage, like on a night. So yeah, I think I definitely wanted to get them aspects into the character.
I've watched the films several times now, and you see your characters kind of coming in and out. How do you sort of imagine your story unfolding in the background as sort of Callum and Sophie are going through their experiences?
Yeah, I mean, Toby is such a unique character, I think, in the sense of he kind of goes, the way I imagine it is he goes on this holiday and he becomes friends with like Ollie and people like that. And he kind of wants to look like this really cool guy and that he's just chilling, and he kind of sits back in a way to not really let his whole personality come through. But then later on in the film, you kind of see him experience more of his sexuality and things like that. So I think that's when it becomes apparent to himself and also the audience that actually he's kind of going through something a lot bigger himself, kind of behind the storyline of Aftersun, which I thought was really, really interesting in how Charlotte Wells went about it because she did it in such a clever and I would say unique way, how she made the whole LGBT aspect so like normal. Like there wasn't a big thing surrounding that. And I thought that was such a good take on it because she didn't feel the need to make a big whole show and tell about it, like a lot of films you see nowadays do in a way. And I thought that was a really smart and impactful way to get the message across without it being too much in your face. Um,
Yeah, you mentioned Ollie, played by Spike Ferns. What was the bond like between you two? Because I'm imagining with all that spare time and acting that you became pretty good at pool together as well.
yeah, I mean, me and Spike are honestly really good friends now. The whole cast, we're all just a family. Um, so like I even remember getting there from the first day and we're all out just socializing and playing pool in real life, really, and playing pool games. And it honestly was such a good experience. And the memories will kind of keep us connected forever, really. No matter what where we go in our careers or what we do, we'll always have each other's back. And every now and again, like we'll see each other and it's all just kind of that reunite. Like we're all reunited in a way, and we all go back to how we were in Turkey, which was really nice.
It's almost the opposite of all those 90s holidays where you're like, oh, we're going to be best friends. We'll stay in touch forever, no matter where in the UK you live from. But the reality is far from it. It sounds like you've achieved the opposite of what so many of us failed to do.
Yeah, definitely. But we are definitely all a family, no matter what. And we have like a group chat on WhatsApp, and we're always talking on it. My phone's always pinging, like, people are like, hi, how is everyone today? And I'm like, hi. So yeah, we are all very, very close.
With your background and interest in music, what was your take on how sort of music was used in the film? I think it's been one of the aspects that have like really resonated with people and been really powerful. This like really beautiful pop soundtrack that is just inherently quite sad underneath it all.
Yeah, I mean, the way the music was used was really smart because it really just goes in with the character's emotion. So, like Under Pressure, for example, how the music changes and it's edited to kind of like show how Callum is feeling in the film is honestly the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in film. Even like songs like Tender, how that was used to show like more meaning and like a deeper, like richer emotion. It honestly was such a brilliant take on how they used it. And it's not something that you see a lot of really. So I thought it was honestly brilliant.
What was Charlotte like as a director on set, and how did she work with their actors? Because for a lot of you, it was your sort of first time on a role. How did she kind of help with yourselves?
So Charlotte, honestly, she's one of those rare people in the industry who are there for you no matter what, and honestly have your best intentions and your best kind of everything at heart. So I remember the first day that I arrived in Turkey, Charlotte took time out of her busy schedule to come find me, and she was like, "We'll go for a walk and we'll have a chat." So I was like, "Okay, cool." Like really like nervous. I was like shaking. I was like, "Oh my God." And she was like, "I really want to make sure that you're comfortable with doing this kiss scene because I really want to have that kind of LGBT aspect to the film because it's really important to her." And she was like, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable. You really want to do it. And if there's any part of you that doesn't want to do it, I understand. I completely get that. But I just want to make sure that you're comfortable. And I think hearing that from her was honestly such a relief and kind of made me feel so safe and secure. She honestly is such a legend. Honestly, that's the only way I can really. There's so many ways I can explain it, but that's the top one and a legend. And whenever I see her, she just wants to hear what you're doing, and she wants to like hear your ideas and what's going on. She's fully kind of taken us under her wing, and I think the love is very much mutual.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. And obviously you got to work really closely with Frankie Corio, a fellow Scot. What was your experience of working with her? I think a little legend sort of also applies to her as well.
Yeah, I mean Frankie is amazing. Honestly, what you see, like what you see of a character in Aftersun is genuinely what she's like. She's incredible. She's the funniest person you'll probably ever meet. And I think she's like our little sister, even now. Like whenever she's got whatever going on, we're always there for her. Like I'll always have her back. If she ever needs advice, like we're always here for her. And she that's the only way I can explain her, like our little sister. Yeah, we have a lot of love for her. Yeah.
And what about sort of Paul Mescal? Like his performance in After Sun was just incredible. What was it like for like a first time like film actor like yourself to be sort of watching him, and what did you make of his performance?
Well, Paul is a beyond talented actor. I think the way his brain works is beyond words, when it comes to like acting and things like that. Um, but he's honestly one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like for example, when we were in Turkey, if we ever had a question or if we ever needed advice on the industry or just life in general, he'd always be there and he'd be happy to help. And even now, if I see him at an event or something like that, he's always there for us. He's always like wants to speak to us and catch up, and he honestly is such an incredible guy.
What are kind of some of your favorite moments from the film? I was kind of a taken last week. I think I saw this like thread on Twitter where it was like, what's everyone's like favorite scenes of the year? And there was so many moments that came up from After Sun. What are kind of some of the highlights for you?
Wow. I think there's so many, but one that definitely sticks into my mind just from filming it is the pool scene where we all jump into the pool. Because I just remember filming it and I think it was one of the happiest days of my life, if I'm being honest, because it was the one day where we got to kind of be free and just jump into this pool with our clothes on, and it's not every day you get to do that. Um, but I also think in just the whole under pressure scene that I remember every time I watch that, I literally sob. And I never really cry at films. I'm not a big crier when it comes to films, but every time I watch that, I'm just so blown away that I just always bawl my eyes out. But yeah, they're definitely two big scenes that stand out to me.
How do you kind of look back on your sort of memories of shooting After Sun in Turkey? Because I imagine it must have been quite surreal because I suppose you were filming it just as we sort of were coming out of kind of COVID at the time. And how do you kind of look back on that kind of, I suppose, your summer experience?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it was really weird because it's like we just came out of the second national lockdown. And I started going back to school again. I started going back into my normal routine. And then we flew to Turkey. But at that point, it was still kind of the whole rules with on like traveling and things like that. So when we arrived in Turkey, there was like I think we were the only English people there. Um, so it was really cool just like walking down the street and everyone being so inviting to come into the businesses and things like that. And everyone just basically treat us like their own family in a way. So it was really cool because we felt like little VIPs in a way, which was like I think the coolest thing I've ever experienced. But it was definitely weird trying to adjust from being locked away for 2 years to then going abroad and basically being on holiday because that's how we felt. We felt like we just gone on this big holiday with all our friends and then we'd go to set some days kind of thing. So it was really cool.
Amazing. Like, and about sort of a year later, the film finally appears in the world at sort of the Cannes Film Festival. I don't think anyone outside of that cast and crew had heard of After Sun. And then you hear all of these amazing reviews coming out, like Movie buy it up, A24 buy it up. What was it like for you to watch that unfold from home and hearing about this work that you'd done really kind of coming through?
Yeah, well, I remember when After Sun first premiered at Cannes, I was in an exam for my A levels. Um, and I remember coming out of the exam and my mum had like rung me like 30 times. And she was like, answer your phone, answer your phone. So I answered it in the end. And she was like, Harry, have you seen the standing ovation? Have you seen all this? And then gradually, as like time's gone on with like A24 picking it up and Mubi, it's honestly, it feels like a dream. And I didn't think I'd ever get to a point where I'd be as fortunate enough and as proud to be a part of such an amazing project. Um, But sometimes I do have to pinch myself because I'm like, is this real? Like, I think Obama put it on his like
He
top.
did, yeah, yeah. That must have been a WhatsApp group moment, that one.
I know. The second I saw that, my friend, to be fair, I was napping. I do have to admit, I was having a nap, and my friend rang me, and she was like, "Go on your phone right now." And I was like, What is it?" And then when I read it, I literally jumped out of bed. I ran into my mum's room. I banged on the door, and I was like, "Mom, mom!" And I think the group chat was just going off, and we're all in shock. It is honestly so crazy, and I'm forever grateful, and I'm forever proud of everyone.
You've been able to join in on the sort of some of the festival circuit. What was your kind of experience like seeing the film? I noticed you visited the Edinburgh Film Festival and saw it at the Film House. Was that your first time seeing it?
Yeah, so it was my first time. I'm pretty sure it was the first time that they were doing a viewing in the UK.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Thursday or something like that. Remember, I
Yeah, I
think
think
it
it was a
was the day
third.
before the main premiere, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah, and I couldn't. I was gonna get tickets for the main premiere, and then I couldn't go that specific day. So out of a whim, I just bought tickets for the Sunday,
Oh
without
yeah, they
having
added
any.
on the extra screening, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I had no clue how I was gonna get there or anything. So I was like, I've got no one to go with. So I rang my friends and I was like, we're going to Edinburgh. I don't know how we're gonna get there. I don't care. We're going. So we ended up getting a flight from Birmingham to Edinburgh, to go watch it. So it was such a surreal moment, kind of getting a flight again to go watch it. It felt like I was going back to Turkey in a way. And then watching it was a surreal moment as well because kind of seeing it come to life, I was just blown away. And then seeing the audience's reaction as well at the end, where there was a bit of a standing ovation. And I just remember looking at my two best friends and like they were crying and then I was crying. And it was honestly such a proud moment in my life. Yeah.
I'm gutted you couldn't make it to the opening night. It was just so awesome. We were there and we did like the red carpet interviews, but the film was amazing. And then they had like this sort of slightly themed party afterwards at like the museum. They had like a guy selling like Turkish rugs and like those sort of themed cocktails, and it was a really cool experience and so on. It was a hell of a way to kind of mark the opening of the festival.
Yeah, that's amazing.
As
Yeah.
a kind of wee sidestep, like the place that you saw this film in, the film house has since closed, and obviously it's generated a bit of news. Like, how important is like independent cinemas to you? Because it gives platforms to films like Aftersun and actors like you in the process. What's your kind of thoughts on that kind of situation?
I mean, I think it's very important, because for a lot of people, it's kind of the opening into the industry. And I think there's so many talented filmmakers and directors and producers and actors who really deserve that spotlight. And it's really upsetting to hear that places are closing down, because it really takes that spotlight off them. But I think there's so many amazing films that deserve to kind of be put on that pedestal and they don't get the opportunity. So, and if it wasn't for these smaller theaters and things like that, then it like a lot of big films nowadays wouldn't be where they are. So I think it's very, very important that we kind of keep these smaller cinemas open.
I meant to ask, like, what was kind of going through your head just before you're sitting down to watch this film? I know the Edinburgh Film Festival have this long little trailer before the films. Like, what's kind of going through your head, like, before you start watching this film? Is it nerves, excitement, hoping, oh my God, I hope I've not been completely cut out of this film? What's kind of going through your head at that moment?
If I'm honest, I think it's all a blur. So I just remember thinking, I remember before we went to go watch it, we went for kind of this meal. And I remember sat at this meal and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm so nervous. And I was like, I feel even more nervous than when I was on set. I don't like it. And then walking in as well and seeing everyone sat there, I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I'm not prepared for this. But then afterwards, when the film ended, and everyone was standing up and clapping, I was like, I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so grateful for every opportunity that I've been given. but yeah, I was definitely nervous before, really nervous.
When you took this kind of role on, like, did you imagine the film would be such a success? I mean, I think it was only, was it yesterday that hit that huge milestone of like for an independent film of like hitting £1 million in the UK and Ireland at the box office. I mean, the film's been out for a couple of months now, and I know it was like re-released into my local Cineworld. Like, I'm based in Edinburgh, and then like this week they've been showing it in like 35 film. It continues to be in cinemas, and like tomorrow is when it drops into movie, but people are still actively going to see it in the cinema. Did you think it would ever be this successful?
No, I mean, I don't think a lot of us did, but I think that was mostly down to the fact that it was my first film. So I never in a thousand years would have thought that I'd be grateful enough, or not grateful, I mean blessed enough to kind of have this opportunity. Um, so when we filmed it, I just kind of thought, oh, it'll probably just be a little smaller film, like a little indie film. Like I didn't really have any high expectations because I didn't really have any experience in film before. So when it went to Cannes and it got such rave reviews, that's when I kind of realized I was like, this is a lot bigger than I think any of us could like imagine. And yeah, I'm still kind of in that whole pinch me moment still to this day since Cannes, honestly.
And how's it kind of impacted you yourself? Has it been something where for friends that, they're going out seeing the film and talking about it with you? Has the film had an impact on you personally?
Yeah, I mean, like my friends are always supporting me. And then for example, I think when was it? I think it was the other day. I went into Leeds City Centre because I live in Leeds, and I think I was in like H&M or something like that. And this girl turns to me and she's like, "Oh my God, I recognize you." And I was like, "Oh, where from?" And she's like, "Were you in Aftersun?" And I was like, "That is the it was the weirdest experience in my life." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." Trying not to cry. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I am." But it has it's had such a positive impact on my life, as well as like my confidence. And as well, it's opened so many doors for me within the industry, and what I want to do in the future and things like that. So I am very grateful for that.
Yeah. The film is racking up like awards at the moment, and I noticed you attended like the British Independent Film Awards. Like that was a huge night for Aftersun, winning like 17 awards. What was an experience like that for you?
There's so many ways I can explain how much of like a surreal experience it was. But I'm so grateful that I got to be with the cast again and we got to celebrate these awards together and celebrate the accomplishments that we've achieved from Aftersun. And I think there was a lot of pride in the room as well. Like we're all very proud of each other and proud of what we've come together and made. But it was honestly such a surreal experience and meeting all these big people in the industry as well, who I never dream of like meeting, was honestly it was such a blur in a way because all the adrenaline. But yeah, I'm very grateful to be able to go. Yeah.
What's it kind of like having a film like, early in your career, you've got like After Sun on your like your IMDb, your CV, reels and stuff. Does that really make a kind of a huge difference for a young actor?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think the contacts that I make and the people that I've worked with and things like that, I think in the future it will definitely help me in whatever road I kind of want to go down. Like now I'm looking at drama schools and it's definitely going to help me kind of boost my name up, which is very nice.
And Mubi kind of released the film in the UK, A24 in America. What was it kind of like to have worked on like an A24 film, especially one kind of produced by Barry Jenkins? And obviously he's got his reputation of films like Moonlight with LGBT plus representation as well. What was that like for you to have that?
I mean, working with Barry Jenkins as well as like Adele Romansky as well was such a surreal experience because I remember watching Moonlight a while back before I filmed Aftersun and being blown away with that film. And as well, kind of how they've helped so many people in the process of releasing films like Moonlight, like people who are from the LGBT community and different ethnic minorities and things like that. So I was really grateful to be able to associate with these people. And as well as A24, that was, I think, a big moment for me because a lot of my favorite films are A24 films. Like Midsummer, that's I never shut up about that film. I never have since I watched it. So to be able to work with both Mubi and A24 was, yeah, beyond anything I could have dreamed of.
Amazing. Like in addition to Midsummer, are there any other films from their back catalogue that stand out for you?
There's so many. Oh my God, there's another one that I've just watched. It'll come to me. Hereditary. Yeah, that's a good one. I watched that in cinema. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah.
So Ari Aster, who directed both of them, I think the trailer for his new film drops next Tuesday. So very much looking forward to seeing how he follows up both these movies.
Yeah, definitely. He's beyond talented.
And what's kind of coming up next for yourself with your career?
So I definitely want to go to drama school. So I'm only 18, so I feel like I've got a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about kind of my acting skills as well as kind of my own personal experiences and things like that. So I think that is definitely a big thing to do next. And it's something that I've dreamed of doing since I was really young. So that's definitely kind of the next steps for me, I hope.
We've often had it on this podcast. People have spoken about their experiences in like London, America, but what's like the industry like in a place like Leeds, for example? I suppose having Manchester nearby must be so helpful, but what's like the Leeds community like for supporting talent like yourself?
I mean, I think it's a lot quieter than places like Manchester and London, but it's definitely up and coming. So we're having a lot of big companies such as like Channel 4 and BBC, they're moving up north into Leeds. So I think slowly and gradually it's becoming a lot more um involved with the arts, which is very nice to see that kind of evolving. But I think right now there's a lot of attention that could be brought up. It's a bit quiet at the moment, but I think over time, over the next 10 years or so, it'll definitely be brought to Leeds and Leeds. Yeah, yeah, it'll be a landmark, really.
And where's kind of the best places to keep up to date with like any news that you kind of put out or any sort of future success? Where's the best places to kind of follow your career, Harry?
Yeah, so I think the best places are probably my agency website, which is Fever Casting, as well as kind of my social medias, which is just my name, Harry Perdios, as well as kind of like my IMDb. That's always been updated and things like that. So yeah, there's just a couple of places.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Harry, for joining us to talk about your experience. I've really appreciated hearing your experience, and I'm so happy you got to experience that so early in your career. I'm sure it will happen for you more and more.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.